Rain drummed against the windows of the elite clinic's silver pines, as if warning of an approaching storm. Dr. AI Zhou adjusted her black hair pulled back in a strict hairstyle and glanced at her watch. 6:30 on Monday morning, time to meet a new patient. At 27, AI was considered one of the most promising psychiatrists in the country. Her dissertation on psychopathic disorders among members of high society brought her not only scientific recognition but also a position at the most prestigious private clinic in Seoul. Only the chosen were treated here, those whose money allowed them to hide their dark secrets behind gilded walls. AI receives an assignment to work with a special patient at a private clinic for wealthy people. Chief Physician Dr. Lee personally handed her a folder marked strictly confidential yesterday evening, warning that this case could make her career or destroy it. Bao Min, she whispered, reading the file. 29 years old, heir to the pharmaceutical empire Phoenix Corporation. The patient's history was striking in its contradictions. Brilliant education at Harvard, MBA degree, fluent in 6 languages. But 3 months ago, an incident occurred aboard the family yacht, after which the young heir was forcibly committed for treatment. The official version, a nervous breakdown from overwork. The unofficial one. AI turned the page and shivered. Bao was suspected of pushing his fiancée overboard during their engagement. The girl drowned, but there was no evidence of premeditation. The family preferred the version of an accident and agreed to voluntary treatment for their son. Going up to the 4th floor where the VIP rooms were located, AI stopped in front of her office door. Something was wrong. The door was ajar, though she clearly remembered locking it yesterday evening. Her heart raced as she pushed the door open and went inside. On her desk stood a bouquet of rare orchids, white with purple veins, exuding an intoxicating aroma. Next to it lay a note written in beautiful masculine handwriting, "For my new toy." AI's hands trembled as she reread the message. Dr. Han Min-ju, her predecessor, had committed suicide 2 months ago. Officially due to depression and overwork. But this note hinted at completely different reasons. Dr. Joe? AI spun around sharply. A man stood in the doorway, and just one look at him sent chills down her spine. Tall, athletically built, with black hair and piercing dark eyes. He wore an expensive gray suit that emphasized his impeccable figure. A barely noticeable smile played on his lips, cold and predatory. Bao Min, he introduced himself, entering the office without invitation. I assume you've already read my file. His voice was deep and velvety, with a slight accent betraying aristocratic upbringing. Bao, heir to a pharmaceutical empire, undergoing forced treatment after an incident. He possessed rare charm and sharp intelligence, but behind the gentleman's mask hid a dangerous predator. Mr. Bao, AI tried to pull herself together. The session is scheduled for 8 in the morning. You shouldn't be here without supervision. He laughed. The sound was melodic and simultaneously frightening. Rules. How I love breaking rules, Doctor. Bao approached closer, and AI felt emanating from him the scent of expensive cologne and a barely perceptible note of danger. Do you like the orchids? I specifically chose white ones, the color of innocence. Though we both know that innocence doesn't last long within these walls. Did you leave the note? AI tried to speak in an even voice, though everything inside clenched with fear. What do you think? Bao sat in the chair opposite her desk, casually crossing one leg over the other. Tell me about yourself, Dr. Zhou. 27 years old, unmarried, lives alone in an apartment in Gangnam. Likes to read detective novels and drink green tea before bed. Goes to sleep at exactly 11, wakes up at 6 in the morning. Very predictable. Blood froze in her veins. How did he know all this? How do you? I study people, Doctor. It's my hobby. Bao's eyes flashed with dangerous fire. And you, dear AI, have become my new object of study. At that moment, AI realized she had fallen into a trap. She was supposed to treat him, but instead, she herself was under his close attention. And judging by what happened to her predecessor, this game could end very badly. The rest of the day passed in tense anticipation. AI tried to concentrate on other patients, but her thoughts constantly returned to the morning encounter. Bao didn't appear until the appointed time, as if he had evaporated, but his presence was felt in every corner of the clinic. At 6 in the evening, as AI was preparing to go home, the secretary handed her an envelope. "A courier brought this for you," the girl said and hurried away. Inside was a photograph of her own apartment, taken from inside. On the kitchen table stood the same orchid as in the office that morning. On the back, familiar handwriting, "See you at home." Her hands trembled as AI dialed the security company. But what would she say? That a clinic patient had broken into her apartment and left a flower? It sounded absurd, especially considering that Bao was officially under supervision. The road home seemed endless. Every shadow seemed suspicious, every passerby a potential threat. AI understood she was behaving paranoidly but couldn't help herself. Her apartment on the 20th floor of an elite complex greeted her with familiar coziness. But the orchid on the kitchen table stood as a silent reminder that her personal space had been violated. AI carefully checked all the locks, slid the chain, and turned on the alarm. Only after that did she allow herself to take a shower and change into home clothes. At 10:30, as she was preparing for bed, the doorbell rang. "Who's there?" AI shouted without approaching the door. "Delivery," a male voice answered. "I didn't order anything." "The order is paid for." "I just need your signature." AI looked through the peephole. A young man in courier service uniform stood in the corridor, holding a large box. He looked quite harmless. But something inside whispered, "Don't open." "Leave it by the door," she said. "Sorry, but I must get the signature personally." "Those are the rules." AI hesitated. On one hand, paranoia could go too far. On the other, the morning's events had taught her caution. In the end, curiosity won. She opened the door slightly without removing the chain. "Show me your documents," AI demanded. The courier smiled and extended his ID. The next moment he forcefully pushed the door, the chain snapped with a clang, and AI fell to the floor. But it wasn't the courier. It was Bao Min. "Welcome to the real game, Doctor," he said, closing the door behind him. AI tried to get up, but Bao was beside her faster than she could comprehend what was happening. His hand fell on her shoulders, not roughly, but commandingly, making it clear who was in charge here. "No need to be afraid," his voice sounded almost tender. "I won't hurt you. As long as you don't break the rules." "How did you get here?" AI swallowed with difficulty. "Security, cameras. Money solves many problems, dear." Bao helped her up, his touches surprisingly gentle. The guard downstairs received a generous bonus for not noticing the courier. The elevator cameras have been accidentally not working for a week. He walked into the living room, looking around with the air of a connoisseur. Good taste. Minimalism with elements of classics. This says a lot about your personality, AI. May I call you simply AI? You've broken the law, she tried to maintain the remnants of professional calm. Breaking and entering, threats. What threats? Bao turned to her, and something predatory flashed in his gaze. I just wanted to get to know my new doctor better. Is that a crime? He approached the bookshelf, ran his finger along the spines. Psychology of Manipulation, The Dark Triad of Personality, Anatomy of Evil. Interesting reading for such a young woman. Tell me, AI, do you study monsters or dream of becoming one yourself? This is professional literature. Of course. He took one of the books from the shelf, flipped through it. And what do you say about this? AI went cold. In his hands was her personal notebook where she made notes about patients. Private thoughts that no one should have seen. Patient demonstrates classic signs of narcissistic disorder with sadistic tendencies, Bao read. Highly intelligent, charismatic, but extremely dangerous. Recommend enhanced supervision. This is about me, dear. Give it back immediately. AI tried to snatch the notebook, but Bao easily evaded while simultaneously pulling her to him. She found herself pressed against his chest, feeling the warmth of his body and the frantic beating of her own heart. You studied me for only one day. His voice became hoarse, and already formed such an opinion. Interesting what you'll write after tonight. Their faces were inches apart. AI could see golden flecks in his dark eyes, could smell his skin. Against her will, her body responded to the closeness, and this frightened her most of all. Let me go, she whispered. What if I don't want to? Bao ran his hand through her hair, freeing it from the hairstyle. You're so beautiful, AI. And so accessible. His lips touched her neck, and a wave of unexpected heat passed through her body. AI understood she should resist, scream, call for help. But something dark and forbidden inside her responded to his touches. This is wrong, she breathed. The best things in life are wrong. Bao lifted her face by the chin, forcing her to look into his eyes. You know this better than many, Doctor. Otherwise, you wouldn't study the nature of evil so closely. Their lips met in a kiss that was simultaneously tender and demanding. AI felt her resistance melting, her mind clouding from the closeness of this dangerous man. When they broke the kiss, Bao smiled victoriously and predatorily. Until tomorrow, dear AI. I think our therapy sessions will become much more interesting. He headed for the door, leaving her standing in the middle of the living room with burning cheeks and a frantically pounding heart. Why are you doing this? She called after him. Bao turned in the doorway. Because I can. And because you want this, even if you won't admit it to yourself. The door closed, leaving AI alone with the chaos of her own emotions. The next morning greeted AI with a heavy head and gloomy thoughts. She had barely slept, replaying yesterday evening's events in her head. Every time she closed her eyes, Bao's image appeared before her, his piercing gaze, predatory smile, touches that still made her skin burn. She arrived at the clinic half an hour earlier than usual, hoping to get her thoughts in order before meeting him. But Bao was already waiting for her in the office, sitting in her chair behind her desk. Good morning, AI, he greeted without even lifting his head from the documents he was studying. I hope you slept well. What are you doing with my files? AI tried to speak sternly, but her voice betrayed her with trembling. Studying your work methods. Very interesting. Bao finally raised his gaze to her, and mocking sparks danced in his eyes. You use rather aggressive techniques for treating patients. Bordering on psychological coercion. These are standard methodologies. For standard patients, perhaps. He rose from behind the desk and approached the window. But I'm not a standard patient, am I, Doctor? AI approached the desk and began collecting the scattered files. Bao didn't resist, merely observed her movements with lazy interest. Yesterday you violated all conceivable boundaries, she said without looking at him. This won't happen again. Oh, it will, his voice sounded very close. And you want this as much as I do. You're wrong. Then why didn't you call the police? Bao walked around the desk and stood behind her chair. Why didn't you demand to transfer me to another doctor? Why did you even come to work today? AI pressed her lips together. She didn't know the answer to these questions herself. More precisely, she did know but was afraid to admit it to herself. Because you're as fascinated by me as I am by you, Bao continued. You've spent your whole life studying the dark side of human nature, but only theoretically. And now before you is the living embodiment of all your research. His hands fell on her shoulders, and AI felt familiar warmth spreading through her body. Let's begin the session, she said, trying to maintain a professional tone. Of course. Bao stepped away and sat in the patient's chair. What would you like to talk about, doctor? Tell me about your childhood. Boring. Let's talk about you instead. I ask the questions, and I'm not obligated to answer them. Bao crossed his arms over his chest and smiled. But I'm willing to compromise. Question for question. You ask me, I answer. But then I ask you a question, and you answer honestly. That's not how it works. That's the only way it will work with me. AI hesitated. Professional ethics forbade such games. But something in his proposal attracted her. Fine, she agreed finally. But only questions related to therapy. Of course. Bao leaned back in the chair. Ask your first question. What happened on the yacht 3 months ago? His facial expression didn't change, but something cold and dangerous flashed in his eyes. My fiancée Sulin was a problematic girl. Drugs, alcohol, promiscuous relationships. The family turned a blind eye to it for the sake of a profitable union between our corporations. He spoke in an even voice, as if talking about the weather. That night she was high. Tried to seduce one of the guests right in front of me. We quarreled. She fell overboard during the fight. Did you push her? That's a second question. It's my turn first. Bao leaned forward. What did you feel when I kissed you yesterday? AI's cheeks flamed. Disgust. You're lying. Steel rang in his voice. I felt how frantically your heart was beating, how your lips trembled. You were aroused, AI. Admit it. This is inappropriate. Answer the question. They looked at each other for several long seconds. Finally, AI gave in. I felt confusion. It was unexpected. Confusion? Bao laughed. What a diplomatic word. Your turn. Did you push your fiancée? No. But I didn't save her when I could have. His voice became quieter. I stood and watched her drown. And you know what? I didn't feel a drop of regret. AI went cold at his frankness. My question, Bao continued. Have you ever wanted to kill someone? What? No, of course not. Another lie. He stood and approached her. I see darkness in your eyes, AI. You study monsters because you understand them. Because you yourself are capable of terrible things. You're mistaken. Then why are you still here? Bao leaned so close to her that she felt his breath on her skin. Why aren't you running from the dangerous psychopath? AI couldn't answer. Because he was right. Days turned into a strange game between predator and prey, where roles constantly changed. Bao appeared everywhere in the cafe where AI had lunch, and the gym she attended in the evenings, even in the theater where she went with a friend on the weekend. He didn't approach, didn't speak, just existed, reminding her of himself. And then there were the notes. Every morning a new one, sometimes in her car, sometimes in her purse, sometimes in her desk drawer. Always brief, always signed with his initials, red suits you. B.M. You slept poorly yesterday. Dark circles under your eyes don't flatter you. B.M. Your friend thinks you work too much. She's right. B.M. The last note made her realize he wasn't just following her, he was listening to her conversations. Somehow Bao was gaining access to the most intimate moments of her life. In the third week of their strange relationship, everything changed. AI was returning home late in the evening after an emergency call to a patient. In the elevator, she found an envelope with her name. Inside was a photograph of herself sleeping in her own bed. On the back, the room is cool. You must be cold under such a thin blanket. B.M. This was too much. AI ran out of the elevator and began frantically searching for her apartment keys. Her hand shook so violently that the key fell to the floor several times. Allow me to help. She turned around. Bao stood at the end of the corridor, elegant and calm, as if he had appeared from thin air. How did you get here? AI's voice broke into a scream. There's round-the-clock security here. I told you money solves many problems. He slowly approached. You look upset, dear. Leave me alone. AI finally managed to open the door and rushed inside. But Bao followed her. We haven't finished our conversation, he said, closing the door. What conversation? You're stalking me. Violating my privacy. I'm studying you. Bao removed his jacket and carefully hung it on the back of a chair. Isn't that what all psychiatrists do with their patients? I'm not your patient. No. You're something much more interesting. He approached her, ignoring her attempts to retreat. AI found herself pressed against the wall, and Bao stood so close that no free space remained between them. What do you feel right now? He asked quietly. Fear. And what else? His hand fell on her waist, and AI felt familiar warmth spreading through her body. Nothing else. You're lying. Bao ran his thumb over her lower lip. Your pupils are dilated, breathing quickened, skin hot. This isn't fear, dear. This is arousal. No. Yes. His voice became hoarse. You want me as much as I want you. Despite who I am. Or precisely because of it. Their lips met in a kiss, greedy and demanding. This time AI didn't resist. On the contrary, her hands reached for his shirt, unbuttoning the buttons. Bao picked her up and carried her to the bedroom. What happened next erased all boundaries between them. Their first intimacy occurs after he breaks into her home roughly, domineeringly, with elements of coercion, but AI experiences contradictory arousal. He was a demanding lover, dominating and commanding. But AI discovered in herself a responsive passion, dark and frightening. She responded to his touches with a greed that surprised even her. When it was all over, they lay in the darkness without touching each other. AI felt both emptied and overflowing with emotions she couldn't understand. Now you're mine, Bao whispered in the darkness. This doesn't mean anything, she replied, but her voice sounded unconvincing even to herself. We'll see. He got up, dressed, and headed for the exit, leaving her lying among the crumpled sheets with the feeling that something inside her had irreversibly changed. The next 2 weeks became a real nightmare and simultaneously the most intense period of AI's life. Bao turned their relationship into a complex power game where each tried to dominate the other. He appeared at her home when he wanted, sometimes late at night, sometimes early in the morning. AI no longer tried to resist his presence. Moreover, she caught herself waiting for his visits, though each time after his departure she felt used. AI is drawn into a toxic relationship. Intimacy becomes a way of fighting for power. Sometimes he dominates her, sometimes she tries to take control. In the clinic, their sessions turned into psychological duels. Bao enjoyed telling about his dark fantasies, watching how she blushed and lost professional composure. And AI, in turn, tried to use psychological influence techniques against him. Tell me about your mother, she said Thursday morning, hoping to find a pain point. She died when I was 7, Bao answered indifferently. Committed suicide by taking a large dose of sleeping pills. Do you know why? AI remained silent, sensing a trap. Because she found out that my father was using her as a test subject for testing new antidepressants. His voice became cold as ice. She turned into a zombie, and he just watched and took notes. That's why I understand people so well, dear AI. I've been studying them since childhood. I'm sorry. Don't pity me. Bao stood and approached her desk. Better tell me what you felt last night when I tied your hands? AI's cheeks flamed. Their intimate games were becoming increasingly sophisticated, and she discovered with horror that she enjoyed it. This has nothing to do with therapy. Everything has to do with therapy. He leaned over the desk, forcing her to look into his eyes. You're discovering dark desires in yourself, doctor. And this frightens you. That evening Bao didn't come. And the next day too. AI discovered that his absence worried her more than it should have. She checked her phone several times, hoping for a message, but there was none. Friday morning the chief physician called her. AI, I need to talk to you, Dr. Lee looked extremely serious. There are questions regarding your work with patient Bao Min. Her heart sank. What questions? The clinic security service discovered violations in the visitor log. The patient left the premises several times without permission. Dr. Lee looked at her intently. And yesterday we received an anonymous call with accusations against you. What accusations? Unethical behavior with a patient. Personal relationships. He paused. Is this true, AI? AI felt the ground slipping from under her feet. Who could know about their relationship? And most importantly, why would someone need to frame her? This is absurd, she said, hoping her voice sounded convincing. I hope so. But while the investigation is ongoing, you're suspended from working with this patient. Dr. Lee stood. And AI. Be careful. The Bao family is very influential. They can destroy a career with one phone call. Leaving the chief physician's office, AI felt a surge of rage. Bao had been playing with her from the beginning, and now he had also set her up. But why? The answer came in the evening with a courier. The envelope contained a flash drive and a note, if you want to know the truth, watch. We'll meet tomorrow at midnight on your building's roof. B.M. AI hesitated for several hours before inserting the flash drive into her computer. Whatever was on it, she understood, after viewing, her life would change forever. Finally, curiosity overcame fear. A recording from the clinic's surveillance cameras appeared on screen. Date 2 months ago. AI saw Dr. Han Min-ju, her predecessor, entering Bao's office late in the evening. The woman looked agitated, almost hysterical. The sound was poor, but individual phrases could be distinguished. Can't do this anymore. Your father threatens. Police should know the truth. Then the image switched to another camera. Dr. Han was leaving the clinic, carrying a folder of documents. And a few minutes later, a man in a dark suit followed her, not Bao, someone else. The next recording was dated the same day but several hours later. Dr. Han lay unconscious in her car at the bottom of a lake. Officially suicide. But the recording showed someone pushing the car off a cliff. AI covered her mouth with her hand, trying to suppress nausea. Dr. Han didn't commit suicide. She was murdered. The last file contained an audio recording of a phone conversation. The problem is solved, Mr. Bao. Excellent. Make sure the documents disappear. Already done. What about the new doctor? Dr. Joe? Don't worry. I'll handle her myself. The voice didn't belong to Bao Min, but to an older man. His father? AI turned off the computer with trembling hands. So all this time she had been a pawn in someone else's game. Bao hadn't seduced her by chance, this was his father's plan. But why? At midnight she went up to the roof, not knowing what to expect. Bao was already waiting for her there, standing by the parapet and looking at the city lights. You watched the recording, he said without turning around. Your father killed Dr. Han. Yes. And you knew about it. Yes. Bao turned to her. In the moonlight, his face seemed marble. But I didn't participate in it. Liar. AI approached closer, trembling with rage. You've been playing with me from the beginning. Using me. It's not that simple. Then explain. Bao was silent for several long seconds, as if choosing words. My father is a monster, he said finally. He turned our pharmaceutical company into a cover for producing and selling drugs. Dr. Han found out about this and wanted to go to the police. And he killed her. Yes. And then decided I needed a new doctor. Someone who could be controlled. Bao approached closer. He chose you, AI. Studied your past, your weaknesses. And tasked me with seducing you. AI felt everything inside breaking. So it was all a lie. Every touch, every kiss. At first, yes. His voice became quieter. But then something changed. You changed me, AI. Don't you dare. She tried to hit him, but Bao caught her hand. It's true. For the first time in my life, I felt something real. You became not a target for me, but... What? Salvation. AI laughed bitterly. Beautiful words. Meanwhile, your father uses the clinic for his dirty business, and me as cover. Not just as cover. Bao released her hand. He wants you to become his new chemist. Your knowledge of psychopharmacology is very useful to him. What? Tomorrow my father's people will come to you. They'll make an offer that's hard to refuse. And if you refuse... He didn't finish, but AI understood. The same fate awaited her as Dr. Han. Why are you telling me this? Because I want to offer an alternative. What alternative? AI stepped away from Bao, not trusting a single word of his. Help me destroy my father. His words hung in the night air. AI looked at him, trying to understand if this was another manipulation. Why should I believe you? You've lied from the beginning. Because you have no choice. Bao approached the edge of the roof and leaned against the parapet. Tomorrow morning you'll be fired from the clinic. By evening your reputation will be destroyed. Your father will see to that. And in a week you'll either agree to work for him, or I'll die like Dr. Han. Yes. AI sank onto a bench, feeling her legs refuse to hold her. Everything was collapsing, the career she had built for years, the life she was proud of, the future she had planned. And if I agree to help you, what then? Then together we'll gather evidence of his crimes and turn them over to the authorities. Bao sat next to her. I have access to his files, but I need someone with medical education to properly format the evidence. And what do I get from this? Freedom. And the opportunity to start a new life. AI laughed bitterly. A new life? After everything you've done to me? AI. Bao tried to take her hand, but she pulled away. Don't touch me. Pain and rage sounded in her voice. You used me, humiliated me, turned me into your toy. It wasn't. What? Not real? AI stood, trembling with emotion. For me it was real. Every touch, every kiss. I thought there was something between us. And there is. Bao also rose. What began as deception turned into something greater. I've never felt this way with another woman. Lies. Truth. He grabbed her by the shoulders, forcing her to look into his eyes. Do you think it was easy for me? Do you think I didn't suffer, deceiving you? Every time you looked at me with trust, I wanted to tell you everything. Then why didn't you tell me? Because I was afraid of losing you before it was time. His voice became hoarse. Because I knew as soon as you learned the truth, everything would end. AI looked at him, struggling with contradictory feelings. Part of her wanted to believe that his feelings were sincere. But another part remembered the humiliation and pain of realizing she had been just a pawn in someone else's game. I need time to think, she said finally. There's no time. Bao released her. Tomorrow everything will begin. If you don't agree to help me now. What? You'll kill me like your father killed Dr. Han? I'll protect you at any cost, he answered with such conviction that AI's breath caught. even if it costs me my life. They looked at each other in the moonlight, invisible lightning seeming to spark between them. AI understood she stood on the edge of an abyss. One step, and she would either be saved or finally perish. Fine, she whispered. I'll help you. But this doesn't mean I forgive you. I don't expect forgiveness. Bao nodded. Not yet. The next day began exactly as Bao had predicted. At 8 in the morning, AI was called to the chief physician and informed of her dismissal. Official reasons: violation of professional ethics. I'm very sorry, AI, Dr. Lee looked genuinely upset. But I have no choice. The pressure from above is too strong. I understand, AI replied, surprising herself with her own calm. By evening, news of her dismissal had spread through all medical circles in the city. The phone didn't stop ringing. Colleagues called with expressions of sympathy, but AI heard both curiosity and condemnation in their voices. At 9 in the evening, someone rang the doorbell. 2 men in expensive suits stood at the threshold. Dr. Joe? We're from Mr. Bao Sr. He would like to meet with you. AI nodded, mentally preparing for what awaited her. They brought her to an office building in the city center. On the top floor was a luxurious office where a man of about 60 with cold eyes and a cruel fold of mouth sat behind a massive desk. Bao Jing Sr. resembled his son but had none of that contradictory charm that attracted her to Bao Jr., Dr. Joe, he greeted her surprisingly politely. Please, sit down. Would you like tea? No, thank you. As you wish. He leaned back in his chair, studying her with a predator's gaze. I assume you already know why you're here. Suppose so. You're a smart woman, Doctor. Too smart to waste your talent treating rich neurotics. He stood and approached the window. I can offer you something much more interesting. For example, work in my company. Research of new psychotropic drugs. Salary 10 times higher than what you received at the clinic. AI remained silent, waiting for the continuation. Of course, some aspects of the work will require discretion. His voice became colder. But I'm sure this won't embarrass you. And if it does embarrass me? Bao Sr. turned to her, and threat flashed in his eyes. Then I'm afraid it will be difficult for you to find work in any clinic in the country. In fact, living will become quite difficult. AI felt a chill of fear but managed to maintain composure. I need time to think. Of course. You have 24 hours. He returned to his desk. After which I'll expect your positive answer. When AI returned home, Bao was already waiting for her in the apartment. Well? He asked. Your father is very convincing. AI sank into a chair, feeling tired. What now? Now we work. Bao took a laptop from his bag. I have access to the company servers. But I need your help to understand what exactly to look for. The next few hours they spent studying files. What they discovered exceeded the darkest expectations. The company wasn't just producing drugs, it was conducting experiments on humans, testing new psychotropic substances on psychiatric clinic patients. My God, AI whispered, looking at photographs of mutilated experiment victims. How many people suffered? Hundreds. Maybe thousands. Bao looked sick. My father turned medicine into a weapon. We must stop this. Yes. But first we need more evidence. And I need to get into the laboratory. AI looked at him. This is dangerous. If your father finds out, he'll find out sooner or later. Bao closed the laptop. The question is whether we'll manage to gather enough evidence before that. That night they didn't sleep, planning the operation. And for the first time since the beginning of their relationship, there was neither passion nor games between them, only a common goal and mutual trust that was slowly being reborn from the ashes of deception. The plan was simple but risky. Bao was supposed to infiltrate the company's secret laboratory and copy all files with experiments, while AI was to wait for him at an agreed location and help process the obtained information. But something went wrong from the very beginning. AI had been waiting for Bao in an abandoned warehouse on the city outskirts for 3 hours when she realized he wouldn't come. Her phone was silent, and this frightened her most of all. She returned home and discovered her apartment had been searched. Furniture overturned, things scattered, and on the hallway mirror written in blood, "Traitors die." AI grabbed a pre-prepared bag with documents and money and ran from the house. A car with tinted windows waited for her on the street. Her heart clenched with fear, but there was nowhere to go. The door opened, and Bao emerged from the car. Alive, but with a split lip and a bruise under his eye. "Quickly," he said. "We don't have much time." "What happened?" "Father found out about our plans." Bao started the car and pulled away sharply. "He kept me in the basement for several hours, trying to beat information about your whereabouts out of me." "Did he succeed?" "No. But he won't stop." Bao glanced at her. "AI, I have to tell you something." Something in his tone made her alert. "What exactly?" I lied to you." Again. AI felt everything inside breaking. "About what this time?" "About my motives." Bao stopped the car at a traffic light and turned to her. "I don't just want to destroy my father. I want to take his place." "What?" "The company will be mine after his death. And I plan to use it for my own purposes." His eyes burned with fanatical fire. "Imagine, AI. All this power, all these resources in the right hands. We could change the world." AI recoiled from him, feeling nauseous. "You're all the same. Your family is a curse." "No." Bao grabbed her hand. "I'm not like him. I want to use power for good." "By killing your own father?" "If necessary, yes." The light turned green, but Bao didn't drive. Cars behind began honking. "Let me go," AI said quietly. "AI, please. Let me go." She jumped out of the car and ran along the sidewalk, not watching where she was going. Behind her came the sound of a slamming door and quick footsteps. "AI, stop." She didn't stop. Running to the nearest shopping center, AI lost herself in the crowd, trying to come up with a plan for further action. Her life was finally destroyed. No job, reputation ruined, home no longer safe. And the only person she had almost believed turned out to be another monster in beautiful wrapping. But the most terrible thing, she still felt something for him. Despite all the deceptions, despite the pain and humiliation, something inside her responded to Bao Min. And this frightened her most of all. The next 3 days AI spent in a cheap hotel, planning her escape from the country. She had some savings and a passport. She could start a new life somewhere far from all this nightmare. But on the 4th day everything changed. In the morning, turning on the news, she saw a story about a fire in the office building where Bao's company headquarters was located. The fire started at night in the laboratory on the basement floor and quickly spread throughout the building. There were no casualties. The building was evacuated in advance. But the most shocking was the continuation of the news. When clearing the debris, rescuers discovered a secret laboratory with evidence of human experiments. Police began an investigation, and the company's stock crashed in 1 day. AI watched the screen, feeling a mixture of relief and anxiety. Bao had still decided on radical measures. But what happened to him? The answer came in the evening. Bao called her mobile. "AI, I need to see you." "Where are you?" "In the hospital. I was injured during the fire." Against the voice of reason, AI went to him. She found Bao in a private clinic room. He lay with a bandaged arm and looked exhausted. "You came," he said, seeing her, "only to learn the truth. Did you start the fire?" "Yes." Bao tried to sit up, grimacing with pain. "I decided it was the only way to stop my father without becoming the same monster as him." "And where is he?" "Dead." Bao's voice was even, but something painful flashed in his eyes. "He refused to leave the laboratory. Said he'd rather die than let me destroy his life's work." AI remained silent, processing the news. "And what now?" AI asked, feeling a strange emptiness inside. Bao turned away to the window where the lights of the evening city floated beyond the glass. "Now I'm free. And you too." He paused. "The company is ruined, all evidence of crimes turned over to authorities. Experiment victims will receive compensation. And you?" "I'll testify against all my father's accomplices. I don't have police immunity, but lawyers say that with cooperation with the investigation, I can get off with a suspended sentence." AI approached the window and stood next to him. Contradictory feelings battled inside, relief that the nightmare was over, and strange sadness from realizing their connection was also coming to an end. "Why did you call me?" she asked quietly. "Because I wanted to apologize." "Really?" Bao turned to her. "I destroyed your life, AI. Used you, deceived you, put you in danger. And this is unforgivable." "You're right. It is unforgivable. I know." His voice became hoarse. "But I want you to know the truth. What I feel for you. It's the only real thing that was in my life. For the first time I understood what it means to love someone more than yourself." AI felt her heart clench with pain. "It's too late for such confessions." "I know." Bao handed her an envelope. "That's why I want to give you the opportunity to start over." "Really?" AI opened the envelope. Inside lay property documents for Switzerland, a bank card, and a letter with the seal of a large private clinic in Zurich. "What is this?" "A house, money, and a job offer." Bao spoke without looking at her. "The clinic specializes in rehabilitation of psychological abuse victims. They need a specialist with your qualifications. Where did you get this money?" "Before the fire, I managed to withdraw some personal funds. This isn't company money, but my inheritance from my mother." He finally looked at her. "I'm not asking for forgiveness, AI. I don't have that right. But let me at least try to fix what I've done." AI looked at the documents with trembling hands. A new life, a new career, the opportunity to help people who had experienced what she had. "And you?" "I'll stay here. I'll answer for everything I've done. Maybe someday I'll become better." "Bao." AI raised her eyes to him. "Do you really regret everything?" "Every day. Every minute." He extended his hand but stopped without touching her. "If I could change everything." "But you can't." "No. But I can give you a chance at happiness." AI folded the documents back into the envelope. Something had changed in her soul. Not forgiveness, it was too early for that. But understanding. "I'll leave," she said decisively. "But not because I'm running from you. But because I want to help other people not become victims like your fathers." "That's right. And I want you to know." AI paused, choosing words. "What was between us, not all of it was a lie. At least on my part." Bao's eyes filled with pain and gratitude simultaneously. "AI. Don't say anything." She approached the door. "Work on yourself, Bao. Become the person you could have been. Maybe someday." She didn't finish, but he understood. "Maybe someday," he repeated quietly. 3 years later Dr. AI Zhou finished her session with the last patient and went out to the terrace of her office at the Hope Clinic in Zurich. The Swiss Alps in the rays of the setting sun looked peaceful. Over these years, she had helped dozens of people overcome the consequences of psychological trauma, written a book about recovery from toxic relationships, and even found personal happiness with a colleague, Dr. Marcus. Life was good. Not perfect, scars from the past made themselves known, but honest and filled with meaning. This evening, as every year on this date, an envelope without a return address lay on her desk. Inside was a simple postcard with a view of Seoul and a few lines of familiar handwriting. A year has passed since my release. Working at a rehabilitation center for former prisoners. Helping those trying to change their lives. Think of you every day. Hope you're happy. Always yours, B.M. AI smiled sadly. Every year the same message. Every year's confirmation that he was really changing. The next day her assistant brought an unusual letter. This came with an official request for cooperation from the Seoul Center for Psychological Rehabilitation, the girl said. They want to invite you to give lectures for specialists working with trauma survivors. AI opened the letter. The center really existed, the program looked serious, and among those who signed the invitation was a familiar surname, B. Min, counseling psychologist. Her first impulse was to refuse. But something made her read the attached materials about the center's work. The statistics were impressive. In 2 years of work they had helped hundreds of people. Patient reviews were sincere and grateful. In the evening AI walked for a long time along the shore of Lake Zurich, thinking. Marcus found her there when it got dark. What are you thinking about? He asked, embracing her shoulders. About the past. And whether it's worth giving it a second chance. Marcus knew her story, not all the details, but the essence. He was a patient and understanding partner who never pressured or demanded explanations. Are you afraid? He asked. Yes. But not for myself. AI pressed against him. For him. What if he hasn't changed as much as he writes? What if he has changed? This question haunted her all night. In the morning AI made her decision. She would write a response, not agreement, but not refusal either. An offer to meet neutrally, in a public place, to discuss the possibility of cooperation. If Bao had really become a different person, it would be visible. If not, she would simply leave. A week later came the reply. Short, respectful, with an offer to meet at the center's cafe in the presence of other staff. No pressure, no attempts to be alone. A week later, Seoul AI sat in the cafe at a table by the window, nervously adjusting her hair. She had arrived the day before and hadn't slept all night, tormented by doubts. Marcus supported her decision but asked her to stay in regular contact. At the appointed time, 3 people entered the cafe, a middle-aged woman in a business suit, a young man with kind eyes, and Bao. He had changed. While maintaining his external attractiveness, he had become calmer, softer. He dressed more simply, moved without his former predatory grace. When their eyes met, there was neither aggression nor attempts to dominate in his gaze, only cautious hope. Dr. Joe, the woman greeted her. I'm Center Director Kim Sun-Hai. Very glad to meet you. AI shook the extended hand, watching Bao from the corner of her eye. He remained silent, waiting to be addressed. The next hour they discussed the center's work, methodologies, plans. Bao participated in the conversation professionally, without attempts to draw special attention to himself. He spoke about his patients with sincere care, shared difficulties and successes. This was a completely different person. Mr. Bao, AI addressed him when the director and colleague stepped away to the counter. How did you come to this work? Long story, he answered quietly. After my release, I realized I needed not just to atone for guilt, but to find meaning in what remained of my life. First worked as a volunteer, then got psychology education. Why? To understand myself. And help others not become what I was. His voice sounded sincere, without form or manipulative notes. AI, he said when their colleagues returned, may I have a minute? She nodded, and they stepped away to the window. Thank you for coming. This is more than I deserve. Perhaps. But everyone deserves a chance to change. Even me? AI looked at him carefully. She searched for signs of the former bow of cold, calculating, dangerous. But she saw only fatigue, sincere repentance, and timid hope. Even you, she answered finally. But I agree to cooperation only under certain conditions. Any. No personal relationships. Only work. Of course. No attempts to return the past. I understand. And if I feel you haven't changed as much as it seems, you'll leave, and I won't try to stop you, he finished. Agreed. 6 months later, the experience exchange program between Swiss and Korean clinics proved incredibly successful. AI spent a week in Seoul each month, giving lectures and consulting complex cases. Bao kept his word, no attempts at rapprochement, only professional communication. But she saw how he sometimes looked at her when he thought she didn't notice. In those glances was love, quiet, humble, demanding nothing in return. That day they were working with a particularly difficult case, a young woman who couldn't trust people after a toxic relationship. The session dragged on, and when the patient left, AI felt the familiar emptiness after such cases. Difficult case, Bao said quietly. Yes. She reminds me of. AI didn't finish. You. 3 years ago. They looked at each other in the office twilight. Bao, AI said unexpectedly for herself, what if we had met under different circumstances? If you had been different? But I wasn't different. And we met exactly as we met. That's not an answer to my question. He was silent for several long seconds, choosing words. If I had been different, I would have fallen in love with you at first sight. And devoted my life to making you happy. Something stirred in AI's heart. Over these months she had seen the real Bao, who he could have been without childhood trauma, without his father's influence, without the darkness that consumed him. And this person was good. And now? She asked almost in a whisper. Now I understand that I'm unworthy of you. And the greatest thing I can do is not interfere with your happiness. What if I decide myself whether you're worthy of me or not? Bao sharply raised his head, hope flashing in his eyes, which he immediately tried to hide. AI. What if I say that over these months I've seen in you a person I could? She paused. Who I could give a chance? You have Marcus. He's a good man. Yes, he's good. And I'm grateful to him for helping me heal. But with him I feel calm. And with you. AI approached closer. With you I feel alive. Even now, when you're completely different. AI, I have no right. You do. She extended her hand and touched his face. Because I give you that right. Bao closed his eyes, pressing against her palm. I was so afraid to hope. And I was afraid to feel. But we've both changed, Bao. Maybe we should give ourselves a chance to be happy? He opened his eyes and looked at her with such tenderness that her breath caught. Are you sure? After everything that happened. I haven't forgotten the past. And I never will. But I'm ready to build a future. With you. With the real you. Their lips met in a kiss, tender, careful, full of promises and hope. A year later, AI stood on the terrace of their shared house in the suburbs of Zurich, watching Bao play in the garden with the dog they had recently adopted. Marcus had reacted to her decision with understanding. He himself felt that their relationship was more friendly than romantic, and remained a good friend. Bao had moved to Switzerland 6 months ago, getting a job at their clinic. They weren't rushing, slowly building a relationship on a new foundation of trust and mutual respect. What are you thinking about? Bao embraced her from behind, and she pressed against him. About how strangely life is arranged. Who would have thought our story would end like this? Has it ended? The old story, yes. But a new one has begun. He kissed her on the crown of her head. I love you so much, AI. And I love you, Mr. Bao. She turned in his arms. And you know what? What? I'm no longer afraid of this love. Even knowing who I was? Especially knowing that. Because the path from darkness to light is the most beautiful journey a person can make. And I'm glad I walked it with you. They stood embracing, watching the sunset, and both understood sometimes the most beautiful love is born from the most painful circumstances. Not because pain is beautiful, but because overcoming it makes people stronger, wiser, and capable of true intimacy.